Attention busy moms in Minnesota. Get ready for a legislative update that is going to simplify the issues that are going to matter most to you as a mom living here in the state of Minnesota. You're going to learn all about what came from the session and how it's going to impact you and your family's well-being. Stay informed and empowered. Don't miss this episode packed with insights to navigate the legislative session's outcomes. Pop in an AirPod and learn how you can best be an advocate for your family's interests moving forward. Hi, I'm Jenna Dix, and I'm always rambling. Just ask my husband. I have a great family and a pretty cool life, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. That's hard to say, but my goal is to inspire and educate to help others hopefully find life beyond an addiction. I'm all things: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Getting healthy, momming, and politics. Get offended easily? You better stop listening. There is no point in wasting that Botox by stressing yourself out listening to a podcast. Welcome to Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Today's episode brought to you by products and services that I'm thoroughly addicted to. Hey there, fellow beauty enthusiasts. Are you tired of spending hours at the med spa for your fillers and your tox injections? Well, I have fantastic news for you. Introducing Alexandra Murphy, the incredible concierge med spa specialist with Clique. She brings the spa experience right to your doorstep. With Alexandra, you can enjoy the convenience of getting your treatments in the comfort of your own home. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, sipping on your coffee, while Alexandra is working her magic to enhance your natural beauty. As a healthcare provider, Alexandra is not only trained to give you the perfect fillers and tox injections, but she's also an expert in counseling and guiding you through the process. No more appointments, no more waiting rooms, just luxury and convenience all in one package. In addition to providing exceptional spa services, she also offers on-site services for home parties and collaborations with boutiques and booths for convenient location-based experiences. Say goodbye to the hassle and say hello to the ultimate pampering experience. Alexandra Murphy will bring the latest techniques and top-of-the-line products to ensure you get the best results every time. Are you ready to look and feel incredible without ever leaving your home? The pokes are not necessarily fun, but they sure are worth it. Trust me, I have been a customer of Alexandra's for over 2 years, and I love her work. Contact Alexandra today with the details in the show notes. Hey, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different in the aspect of, I actually made a video for a more political type YouTube channel that I have for the people here in Minnesota. And I kind of stole the audio from the video I did because I feel that this topic right here that we're going to be diving into today is something that we need to make sure is getting spread wide and far across the state of Minnesota. If you're not in the lovely state of Minnesota, this information might not 100% obviously pertain to you, but these are heads ups that you might want to know just in case, because a lot of things are sliding across the country, right? And unless you live in a super red state, you might just want to be a little aware of the things we're going to talk about here today. So make sure, like I said, pop in that AirPod and let's get a listening, because these are things that are going to be impacting us as moms here in the state of Minnesota, but definitely going to be impacting our families, which, I mean, that is super important because I'm a mom. I get it. So let's get educated and empowered on these topics so that we know what we need to do to keep our family's best interests in play. Hello, my name is Jenna Dix, fellow Minnesota mom, and I want to share with you today a little bit about the legislative session from 2023. Don't pause me. I know that doesn't sound super exciting. It's not the most exciting thing out there, trust me. I'd much rather be, binging on Netflix. But give me 20-ish, 25 minutes. Let me run you through the legislative session from this last few months and let you know how it's going to be impacting you as a mom. Because I understand it's not the most exciting topic. But we also need to know that as parents, it's going to be impacting us. It's going to be impacting our families. And that's why I really have become quite a nerd and learned a lot about this, because I have seen how it's impacted my own family, fellow Minnesota families, and I want to share with you some of the highlights, the pieces that really are going to impact you and your family. So I feel like a lot of us sit there and we think, I voted them in, right? I voted the legislators in. This is their job, Jenna. Let them do their job. Yeah, let them do their job. And myself, if you trust me with the job, I don't want you peeking over my shoulder all the time, making sure I'm doing a good job, right? But for the most part, our jobs don't impact an entire state, right? At least, I'm a health coach. My job, for the most part, I impact my clients. I'm not going to impact every person within the Minnesota state boundaries. And I'm sure your job doesn't either. So the legislators, they do need a little accountability. We do need to know, what are they doing? We essentially hired them in. What are they doing? How's it going? So today, like I said, I want to give you some of the highlight pieces that are going to be impacting you as a parent, because we need to make sure that we are holding these legislators accountable for the actions that they are doing in their role, in their job. Today, I want to talk about 3 topics that I think are really going to be impacting us as parents: the economy, public safety, and parenting overall. Just a few things that I kind of summarized in there, but end of the day, those are going to be the important ones that really pull at our brain cells, right? Because we are parents and we want to make sure we can do our job and do it well and make sure that the laws and the legislators are supporting that. So let's dive right into that first one, economy. And I don't know about you, I hated econ. Other than my teacher having a really cool accent, I would not have paid attention, more than likely. But the economy right now, not even just Minnesota, go big scale here. It's at a point where I think we all have started to pay a little bit more attention, especially when you're going to the gas pump and you're paying more. You're going to the grocery store and you're paying more. And then you're looking at your stocks and you're like, I don't really fully understand this, but I don't think it looks good, right? The economy does impact us. I think in these last couple of years, we have seen that. The economy here in Minnesota, especially after this session, which, if you don't know this, so the session, it ran from mid-ish January to mid-ish May, right? So roughly 4 months. The session just wrapped. We need to focus on the economy because some things that just happened or will be happening will be impacting our economy and impacting our mommy purses. So last year when the election cycle was going, we're all about to head to the polls and vote. Some of the stuff the candidates were talking about was that we had close to an $18 billion, right? What's his name? Austin Powers guy. $18 billion surplus in the state. That's a lot of money. That's more money than I could even fathom. And we had that surplus at a point where Minnesota families' budgets were really starting to get stretched, right? The pocketbooks were starting to feel like things are getting tighter. The hope was legislators were going to get in there and kind of help Minnesota families feel a little bit better utilizing that surplus to their advantage. session wraps, it sure looks like a lot of those legislators got in there and thought, shopping spree. Which, hey, if you'd given me a lot of money when I was like 21, that's what I would have done. 1,000%. But we hope that the legislators that we vote in there are going to be fiscally responsible. And it sure as heck doesn't feel that way as session is concluding. In addition to the 18 bill, they spent another $10 billion. $28 billion total. It's gone. Right? Is it all like already like out there? Cash in the wind? Not essentially, but it's all divvied out. Like they know where it's going. Okay? They put so many budget increases in play. We saw 40% budget increases. 40%. Minnesota has never seen a number that high. That's the highest in Minnesota history. So 18 bill plus 10. Gone. All right, Jenna, so what does that mean to me? That's a lot of money, yeah. But like I said, the 18 bill, I couldn't even really wrap my head around that. And now you're adding another 10. It's hard to wrap your head around that. What that means to you is an increase of $3,500 per year for an average Minnesotan's taxes. $3,500 more. Are you ready to pay that? Because the average Minnesotan will be. The DFL is out there right now, and they're very much tooting their horns that they gave tax cuts. They did put out a tax credit. But the parameters, you need to make less than $35,000 per couple. $35,000 per couple. So we're talking, let's say there's a young mom, she's working a job, she's got a 40-hour-a-week job, and she's making $17 an hour. Just her. Either, dad's sick and he doesn't work, or she's single mom in it. She makes too much money. She alone makes too much money and will not get this tax credit. That is not going to help Minnesota families at all. Okay? The average Minnesotan family will not feel that perk. Period. All right, well, they're also saying that they're giving us walls checks, though, Jenna. Those are going to be nice, right? When we all were running for the election last year, the DFL was saying that we are going to be receiving walls checks. We will send you walls checks. You'll be getting, $2,000 per person, a rebate. Essentially kind of like the, hey, we took too much of your money. We have a huge surplus. Here's some back. All right, they said $2,000. The Republicans, even at that point, were like, that's kind of bogus. Like, that's not good. That's not decent for our people. They deserve better. And then the DFL, they of course had their talking points, and those rich Republicans, they just don't relate. They don't understand. $2,000 would really help you out. Well, the DFL got in power because remember, they have the trifecta. They hold all 4 state offices. They're in power in the Senate, and they're in power in the House. 2,000? Is that what we said? Oh, sorry. We were joking. You get $260 each. That will be the rebate check. $260. And every person in the state will get that, including the people that didn't even pay taxes. Which I don't know how you feel about that, but for me, I'm like, wait a minute. You didn't put in the kitty, you shouldn't get money. Right? If you didn't put money in there, let me have your $260 and my $260, right? Like, it's kind of how my brain went for a moment, because I'm like, wait a minute, we're barely getting anything back anyway, and plus we have to give them another $3,500 anyway. These checks are a joke, in my opinion. You can make up your own mind. The last piece of the economy that you may think, well, that doesn't really affect me as a mom. The businesses here are going to continue to take the hits. Let me tell you, Minnesota businesses are not going to be thriving anytime soon for the most part. Especially smaller companies, those mom and pop shops. They already took the hit hard with the pandemic. Especially here in Minnesota because we had really cool laws and requirements and regulations in play for businesses. The smaller ones, not the Targets. And the hits will continue to keep coming because they put through a lot of legislation that is not supporting the businesses. At the, I believe, start of next year. Look up the date, but you can quote me on this part that we will soon have the highest business taxes in the country. I love Minnesota. My family's here, right? I can't even lie. That's probably one of the only reasons I really love Minnesota because I hate being cold. I'm happy right now because it's summer. Our football team, not my team. I'm not a Vikings girl. So it's not like Minnesota is an amazing state where we should have the highest business taxes ever. But yet we will. And then people are screaming, why are businesses leaving? Hey, my favorite business, they just moved away. Or my favorite business, they just shut down because they couldn't afford to be here anymore. So yes, it will impact us. And if you happen to be a mom business owner, girlfriend, get ready. It will impact you, especially if you have any employees. Because the FMLA act that they just put through, even if you have one employee, it will affect you. As a mom, maternity leave to me was important. I was at a company at the time that I got a really decent maternity leave. But I also am a realist, and I know that there's some companies that it's not possible. Should they work with the employee and try to negotiate something? I think so. But when you are demanding specific parameters for leaves, and not even just maternity leave, FMLA leaves of many kinds, it is going to break some employers out there. Literally crumble their companies. And if you really want to dive into the goods of that one, right? So this is a brand new FMLA Leave Act they're putting into play here in the state. A state now has to create this program, hire people to make sure it's run. Do you know how much a state is going to spend on that part? Just getting it set up? $700 million. Like, it's literally like they just like, whew. There was no fiscal responsibility. So these businesses were probably going to lose a few more. Fingers crossed it's not one of your favorites, right? Businesses are already out there struggling, not having enough employees. They can't find people to work. And with this legislative session, one of the things they also did was they created a crap ton of jobs within the government. So now, not only are they going to have this point, these businesses going to have this point where they're like, we can't find people to work. Now they're going to be competing with all these new government jobs that will be created in the near future as well. So, chatting with some different people in the legislature, we were just kind of talking about, how is this going to impact people? And the best way to kind of describe it, let's say, if you're teetering on the edge of like, holy crap, we're really not doing that great financially as a family. Essentially, what a lot of this legislation, which the DFL pushed through because they do have the majority, they looked at you, smiled, said, we'll take care of you, and then shoved you in. That is essentially what you should be feeling like. That's a valid feeling. Okay? So the second thing I kind of wanted to talk about, public safety. Public safety, this was like my focused last election. Because I was watching, and maybe it was because, it was summertime. It definitely seems like, and we could look at numbers, crime really starts to soar when weather's doing nicely here. I think a lot of the crime just kind of goes down in the winter because who wants to be outside when your face hurts to stand out there, right? But when it's nice out, crime numbers really don't look that great. And I can tell you, they've continued to not look that great. And a lot of these policies that went into play, it sure seems like we aren't going to be seeing any improvements in the near future. When you were talking about essentially legislation that was deemed the get out of jail free card, which over on the Republican side, they were thinking like, oh, that's not very PC to say. Well, if that's what it is, let's call it what it is. When you're talking about criminals, number one, they're not even giving, when they're already going in front of a judge, the judge a lot of times isn't giving them the max term. Sometimes they're going even way below what the bottom of the line guidelines are. Guidelines were lowered. You're talking early releases. But don't worry, there was a lot of funding given to the prisons to make sure that there's like arts and crafts for the prisoners. I am one, if you follow me like avidly, right? My podcast is titled Ramblings of an Addict. I obviously have a past. I am a recovered alcoholic. So I'm one to believe in, yes, people do deserve a second chance. But a second chance. Maybe even a third once in a while. But when you're looking at some of these rap sheets and you're like, holy crap, how is he on the road? Like, how are they out on the streets? How is this person not in jail or in prison? Because of a lot of these policies, which a lot of them got lowered even more. So crime, you look at, yes, St. Paul, Minneapolis, not the greatest, right? First ring suburbs, the ones that are closest to the cities, those numbers already weren't great. But now you're looking and you're like, wait a minute. Second ring of the suburbs, they're starting to get a little more impacted. Third ring, they're starting to get a little bit more impacted. You got bus lines and light rails starting to travel across the state even more, which, as we've seen so far, does bring higher crime rates. It doesn't look great for public safety for families. We are a family that fully backs the blue. We have the flag in our house, and we support the police. But when they're maxed, when their bandwidth is stretched so thin, it's hard. People are quick to blame the cops for a lot of these issues. How? When they don't have the bandwidth. They don't have time to report to every single thing. When they're getting way more calls, they're dealing with a lot more stuff and less officers. Because I'm sorry, not a ton of people want to become a police officer right now, especially in the state of Minnesota. One last piece with the public safety, that this was a legislation that went through that I will be very transparent. I did not focus on it. It was not one of my hills, and it was the legalization of weed. I thought, well, it's already legal in the aspect of you can go buy, it in food, gummies, drinks, things of that sort here. But now you can also buy it and smoke it in Minnesota. I obviously am not well versed on that topic, so I'm assuming you can just go buy like the plant, right? But essentially, where my brain went after, thanks to some different conversations I had, was making that legal also is going to have an impact then on the consequences that are associated with marijuana, which I'm willing to bet you, right? The people that are involved in marijuana illegally probably aren't going to vanish. Do you think, as some of my family would call them, the dope dealers are just going to disappear? Probably not, because that's how they make money. You're not just going to take away their income source. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they have sales tactics now, like, oh, we sell it cheaper than the store down the road, or we have a better strand, or I don't know. But by legalizing it, there's going to be less penalties on those types of individuals. Which a lot of times, yes, other bad things can be correlated with that black market crap. So, just some food for thought that I will be transparent. Like I said, I didn't think a lot about it. But we might want to, as mamas, keep an eye on that kind of stuff. Okay? The last thing that I wanted to focus on is, I thought about this title. I'm like, I don't know, parenting in general. Just some of these legislation pieces that really just fall into our role as a parent, right? Because it's kind of a hodgepodge, you know what I mean. I was chatting with a friend, and the other day we were like, do we even have rights as parents anymore? Do we have a say? Because with some of the legislation that came down, some of the things we don't anymore. When it comes to abortion, when it comes to our kid deciding that they want to change their gender, we don't have a say. Our kids can go do these things as minors without getting the from their parent. And yes, I understand. I'm thinking of my specific senator in my area and all her comebacks, right? There's going to be certain children that need kind of some guardrails in play because, I don't know, wackadoodle parents. But the one piece too that if a parent does, I don't want that for my child. I don't want my daughter to switch to a boy. I don't want my daughter to have an abortion. Right? Kids can all be taken from that parent. The parent has no say. That's terrifying. Terrifying. So you're telling me my kid can't go buy cigarettes, my kid can't sign up for the military, my kid can't drink, my kid can't go get, a facelift, but they can go chop off their ding-dong and put a hoo-ha and start taking hormones to completely, essentially, F up their body. That's scary. That's really scary. I could go on that one all day. I'm not going to because I'd probably cry. Probably ugly cry. And on top of that, I think a lot of parents were aware of those two things that did go through this year because there was a lot of noise. Thankfully, I'm hoping there's more accountability moving forward. Taxes, right? And DFL's really, like I said, we're giving tax relief and tax breaks, and I already went over that. But let me also say, right, they're quick to say, they want to make sure, yes, that they are the pro-choice side, but they also want to make sure they're supporting families. Well, then why, on Mother's Day, did they very quietly, taxes were removed from essential baby items? So think like diapers, wipes, things of that sort. Oh, they added it back on. Just kidding. You're not going to get a tax break on that. You still should pay taxes on those items, even though your baby absolutely needs them. I don't know, kind of an a-hole move in my mind, but you think on that one yourself, right? Another note that I wanted to talk about, and this one I also think it did get a lot of highlight, a lot of limelight as the session was going. Pedophilia. I did a video on that already. You can go back to one of my recent videos. I did it probably like a month ago about this. Essentially, the DFL has left a gate open for pedophilia in the state of Minnesota. That's my 2 cents on it, right? Because there was an amendment added in. The House of Representatives unanimously voted it in. Huge thank you to Representative Harry Niska for creating the amendment. He tried. Our side tried. The DFL, they voted it in. And then they removed it. Do your research. That's scary. And that, parents, is one we need to, like, type that in your notes on your phone to, like, go back and check on every few months. Are they putting anything new? Are they trying anything regarding that topic? Another note that I wanted to talk about was education. Education's a big one in Minnesota. Test scores in Minnesota are not looking great. You know, I think it's half of Minnesota kids cannot read proficiently at the grade they are in, at the level they should be reading in that grade. Half. That's incredibly alarming. And I get, yeah, COVID was a thing. COVID did impact the education. But we need to be doing something better for our kids, so this is not acceptable. Not acceptable at all. So the GOP did get a bill to go through. It was the Reading Reset Bill, I believe was the title. And essentially what this bill is going to do is get the schools some curriculum on really understanding the science of reading, train the teachers on it, and then also offer tutoring to kids that are behind in reading. Because reading is a big deal. We need our children to be able to read. So, huge thank you for that bill going through. One thing that the DFL was really standing strong on last time when elections were coming, right? They wanted fully funded schools, which the GOP continued to yell basically back, like, what does that mean? Tell me, what's the number? What does that mean? Never came. They never explained. But I can tell you, the schools are sure as heck not going to be fully funded, because along with some relief that they did give the schools, they also handed down hundreds of new mandates. The school is going to need to meet these mandates, and to meet these mandates, they are going to need money. I was chatting with a couple of the legislators. We were talking about, essentially, you're looking at schools going broke. This is terrifying. Talk to some superintendents. Talk to the leaders of your schools and see what they are saying. Because they're not going to be able to keep up with this. And who's going to pay the price? Kids. Hardcore. One more piece with the schools. So this is actually going to be impacting the older kids, but kids that are in the public or kids that are in the schools that want to do PSEO. So essentially going to college while still in high school. And they get to do this for free, right? It's paid for. They get to go to college and get some of their credits while wrapping up their high school years. They no longer can go to the Christian schools that require a faith statement. Well, they could if those schools said, oh yeah, don't worry, you don't have to sign a faith statement anymore. Which Christian schools have those in play for a reason. That is their right. And the other side already, well, then that's our right as a state not to pay for it. Okay. It just sure seems like there's a lot of Christian things. But don't worry, in the schools, I've gotten on this high horse a lot. Other religions, I mean, that's totally acceptable. We can have prayer rooms for the Muslims in our public schools, and, you know, we can make sure we're celebrating all the other religious holidays, but Christian things, don't you dare. This impacted my family, legit, because I do have an older daughter who is not able to go to the PSEO college that she wanted to go to because it's a Christian school, and they are still requiring the faith statement, which I believe they should. So now she can go online. She doesn't have to sign the faith statement for online because she will still be at home. She's not really impacting their campus, I guess. So they're trying to work with this new stipulation. I'm appreciative of that. It's still incredibly frustrating. I think they still should be able to require their faith statement even for their online kids. I just told my daughter, I said, you know what? This is the evil one trying to keep you out of something good for you. Let's do the workaround for now. And at the same time, I will get to some things that we're doing on our end to battle this. And I can tell you some lawsuits on this have already been filed. Thank goodness. Okay. All right. So yes, it definitely a lot of these legislation pieces going to be impacting the schools. One that I did want to touch on because the DFL is going to quick. Well, we did this for the schools. This was a good thing. They passed free lunches for all kids in Minnesota. So if you go to school, you get not only lunch, I think they get breakfast also. Paid for. Taxpayers are now going to be paying for breakfast and lunches for all the kids in the schools, even if their family could afford it. One thing that's already happened this year, even though this does not go into play until next year, do you know my family stopped paying for lunches? The school lunch accounts are so in arrears right now, they have never seen numbers like they are seeing now. It's just absurd because the kids that needed that reduced lunch before, they were getting it. They were. But now, I don't know, like, was this just a thing for them to be like, we did something kind? Not really. More taxes, right? Even for kids that didn't need this. So, all right, Jenna, you just complained your face off about 3 different topics. What do we do? So, yes, they have the trifecta. They have all 4 state offices. They have the Senate by 1 seat, one vote. And they have the House by 6. 6 more DFL versus GOP. Okay? So essentially, you do the math. We're close to a 50-50 state. Roughly 47-48% of Minnesota still voted for the Republicans. Yet, the DFL clung to party lines. Whatever they were told, they did. Even if they came from a district that was kind of mediocre, kind of mixed, kind of purple. They didn't care. They voted hard blue. We need to, as Minnesota, make sure they understand you are in that spot. You need to go purple sometimes. Your football team is purple, right? Say yours, because I'm not a fan. They need to understand there needs to be give and take. And that means accountability from the people. Make sure they're hearing from you. And I get this is hard to understand sometimes. This is hard to swallow. I voted Democrat for a long time. I came from a union family. My grandpa was a Democrat. He was a glazer. Glazer? He was in a union, a trades union. My dad, he was in the labor's union, and then he was a railroader. Hard DFL. Because typically what we think of is the Democrats are for the working people. If all my little notes today didn't prove otherwise, please do further research. The DFL of today is not the DFL your grandpa voted for. I can tell you that. They are not the same. So like I said, accountability. These people need to hear from you. You need to let them know you did not vote what your constituents were saying. Lawsuits, they're already happening. Plenty of constitutional attorneys are already contacted. They're already putting their game plans into play for a lot of these different legislation pieces. The PSEO ones have already, there's already been lawsuits filed. And in addition to making sure that they hear from you, you need to remember this. You need to share this type of information. Is it going to be the best talk at Starbucks with your girlfriend? No. But you need to have these conversations because we need to remember these things. Because I can tell you a lot of these things are not going to go into action ASAP. A lot of these things aren't going to go into game plan for like a couple years after the election. That will kind of reverse some things. That gives us the ability to get some more balance into the House of Representatives. So not this next election, but the following, so 2024, we vote on the president, but we also have the option here in Minnesota to vote on the House again. Everybody's term is up, and we get to re-vote for the House. So we potentially could get more Republicans into the House of Representatives. Do you think it's coincidental that some of these pieces are not going into play until after that election? So maybe we haven't fully felt the impact yet? And they're also hoping that we forget about a lot of this? Right? We need to remember. We need to remember. We need to vote with our values. We need to vote with our pocketbooks. We need to vote with, what the heck did you do to my family? And then the last step, if you feel called, get involved. All levels, schools, cities, state. Check my channel here. I have a lot of different ways of getting involved, whether it's, finding your BPOU and explaining what your BPOU is, getting involved in affiliates, things of that sort. But I can tell you, the legislative session this year on the DFL side, they can say it all they want that they didn't, but it sure as heck feels like they forgot about the Minnesota moms out there and what values we hold close to our hearts. So make sure to share this information. I went over a couple minutes. I tried to keep it like 25-ish minutes because I get it. We're busy. Hopefully you listen to me at 2 times speed, right? But I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. JennaDixMN@gmail.com. All right. So as that audio concludes, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in, educating yourself, and learning a little bit about these steps that you need to make sure you're taking as we move forward in the state of Minnesota. Because as moms, it's our job to make sure that we are taking the absolute best care of our children. God gifted them to us, and we want to make sure that we are doing what's going to be best for them and their future generations. So as always, make sure, wrap yourself in that armor of God, and let's move forward to live our absolute best lives. Share this episode with a girlfriend. Make sure, if you have not yet rated and reviewed the podcast, you do that. And I will catch you in the next rambling episode. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Remember, if you are battling an addiction, reach out for help and support. There are many resources available to assist in your journey towards recovery. Surround yourself with a supportive community and never give up on the path towards a healthier and happier life. I appreciate you taking the time to listen and joining me on this journey. As you heard, I'm always rambling. But seriously, thank you for your support, and make sure to subscribe and follow my channel. I can't wait to share more with you on the next episode. Until then, keep on rambling. If you have found this podcast helpful and want to dive deeper into personal growth and self-improvement, be sure to head over to my website, jennadix.com. You'll find a wealth of resources there. There is a little less drugs, sex, and rock and roll these days, but whether you're interested in getting healthy, information on momming or parenting, or politics, jennadix.com has something for everyone. So, what are you waiting for? Head to jennadix.com today and start your journey towards personal growth and self-awareness. See you there.